Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Business Talks. I am your host, Chawanne Burns. In today's episode, we are going to talk about John Miller. John Miller is a pastor, or was a pastor in South Carolina, and he decided that he to give a sermon. He went through this whole church service, and at the end of the church service, he decided to let everybody know his wife unalived herself. Okay. So we're going to discuss that. We're going to discuss the details around that. So stay tuned for another episode of Business Talks.
Something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad. Something like this. Looks a little bit like I can't miss. Hey, this is what you call a bad. What? This is what you call a bad.
Okay, put in the chat. Let me know where you're viewing from. Please put in the chat. Let me know where you're viewing from. I see we have Noble Young in the building. What is good? Chuck D. Chicks. What is good? Thank you for tuning in. And Carolyn Cruz is tuning in. And Henry Santos from Pontiac, Michigan. What up, though? Carolyn Cruz from Massachusetts is tuning in. Headley Grange. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, we're going to get started. I don't want to hold you guys too long because this is crazy. I have this audio I want to share with you. This is the audio when he decided that he's going to have this church service and not tell anybody about his wife being dead from a self-inflicted wound. So this is the audio. Oh, my bad. I gotta, you guys forgive me because I thought it was sharing. Hold on for just a second. Okay, this is the audio. Let me make sure that you can see. Okay. And while that's queuing up, this pastor is in South Carolina, and he's no longer with this particular church. I'm assuming that they fired him after all this other stuff came out.
After the announcement, we're not going to do an altar call today. Instead, I'm going to have you stand up, and I'm going to make an announcement. And after the announcement, I'm going to ask that you leave church quietly and don't talk about the announcement here in the building, please, if you can. So y'all can stand to your feet. Before I make the announcement, I also want to say that my request to you is that you will continue to come to church and serve and give for the next little bit. 'Cause I don't want to have. I'm taking a little bit of a break, and I don't want to have to worry about the church. My break may be a few days, a few weeks. I don't know. I got a call late last night. My wife has passed away. And yeah, it was self-induced, and it was up in North Carolina. And we're gonna have a funeral for her next Sunday here at 3 p.m. And so it's all I can. Yeah, I'm just kind of going on adrenaline right now. So y'all pray for me and my kids and everybody. And she wasn't. Y'all knew that she wasn't well mentally, and that she needed her medicine that was hard to get to her. And so I'm sure there'll be more details to come. But just keep our family in your prayers. And I'm going to let Pastor Randall, my bishop, he can pray. I'll give him a microphone. He'll pray out. And if you have anything you want to share as well, I appreciate it.
Come on, let's pray.
So first
Whatever
of all,
your business needs, Vistaprint can print it, like packaging.
First of all, we can't assume what his reaction should be. But you held church service. You didn't say, "Oh, I'm not going to be there during church service," and let the assistant pastor take over. No, you decided to hold service through the entire time. You They say they said he was acting normal. So you held this church service the entire time, and at the end of the church service, you told everybody not to talk about it and just leave. Well, wasn't your wife their friends too? Yeah, I mean, so you didn't want nobody to talk about it? It's kind of weird. So, they did an investigation on him, and they found out that he had nothing to do about it, to do with um the investigation, or to do with his wife murder. And it wasn't a murder. She took her own life. But now they're saying maybe he drove her to a place of no return. Okay, and this is why they are saying these things. I'm on live. I'm on air. So what are you trying to tell me? No, you can't go in the game room. Y'all gotta go to bed at 9 o'clock because you got swimming at 10. I mean 8 o'clock in the morning. I need you to get out my room. I know. So take a shower and go to bed. Or watch TV. Chase, close my door all the way. Babe, close my door. Close the door all the way. Thank you. Yeah, my kid. You know, when you got kids, you gotta deal with the kids. But anyway, so I find it really odd and strange that your husband, even though they were in the outs, you show no emotion that your wife took her own life. And you're saying, oh, she wasn't well. But the reason why she wasn't well is because of you. Okay, so this is what they had to say about this investigation. Now, it says the pastor whose wife took her own life weeks after speaking about alleged abuse within their marriage has been released from his ministerial functions. John Paul Miller, 44, was released from his duties at Solid Rock at Market Common Church in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Mika, his wife, was 30. So there was a 14-year difference. Okay. We're going to later find out that this dude knew Mika since she was 10 years old. From the age of 10, he knew her. So he was 24 at the time when they met. 30. She was found dead at River State Park in North Carolina on April the 27th from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. An email sent by News 13, I, Charles Randall, by the authority vested in me as an overseer, hereby release Pastor John Paul Miller from all his ministerial functions for the time of healing, counsel, and guidance pursuant to our governing instrument. They're not releasing because of some of the salaciousness that's been in a news report. They just releasing him because of time of healing. Well, does he really need healing? It seemed like he's the devil in sheep clothing. So weeks before passing, she shared a video speaking about his abuse within the marriage as claims emerged. She was being harassed and afraid for her life. And it said that she called the police about 15 times within 1 year regarding him. But he was claiming that she was crazy. That's what he was claiming. No, she's crazy. She's off her meds. And I guess he was trying to have her civilly committed. but they said she was crazy. And it says weeks before her video before her passing, she shared a video speaking about abuse within a marriage as claims emerged that she was being harassed and was afraid for her life. Okay, so Miller, who has a criminal record, including multiple counts of aggravated assault and battery, in which he pled guilty to and told his congregation that her death was self-induced. You all know she wasn't mentally well and she needed her medicine, and it was hard for her to get to. Prior to making that announcement, he asked the flock to stand and instructed them to leave the church quietly and don't talk about the announcement here in the building. What do you mean? If it was going to hurt you too much to talk about someone passing, which was your wife, the first lady, that's kind of odd. I'm pretty sure people liked her in the church. And then what else is odd? You act like nobody else, or no, you act like it wasn't no big deal. You know, you came to church like, oh well, yeah, she killed herself. That's really sad. Anyway, it says Miller had called the authorities before taking her own life, and she told the authorities what she was about to do and told them where to find her. Okay, and police said throughout the call she remained calm, asking the dispatcher if her phone can be tracked. In the days after her death, her friends and family held a rally calling justice for Mika outside the Solid Rock Church where Pastor Miller, 44, works. So this is the couple. This is them. He looks young. He looks young. But we got to remember he was 24 when she was 10. Is that a form of grooming? You knew this girl, this little girl, she was a grown woman then, when she was 10. So I'm going to read this. Let me just share this other news report with you before I read the other report. And like I said, I think he actually drove her to a place of no return. And only reason why I'm saying that is because all the things that her friends and she claimed that happened within their marriage. He was married before, and he kicked this lady to the curb. She was in her late 20s. So I guess he don't like them too old. And coming to find out, while him and his wife was split or going through this divorce, he was trying to reach out to another member of the congregation. So let me just share this. This is News Nation, and they're talking about basically what happened with this lady.
Into the notion that this was suicide. What else did you find out from him?
Well, he basically, I think, echoes what a lot of people are feeling at this time, which is like really just troubled. He knows both of them. A lot of people here are reticent to talk. He wasn't. He was also at this church, which is JP. He goes by JP's church. This man is Tim Carter. I believe we have some sound of he and I talking back and forth. So let's just roll that sound.
I'm not going to judge my gut feeling. I don't agree. The young lady was energetic. She was making plans. It just doesn't sound like someone committing suicide. It sounds like someone that's getting ready to live life again, really starting her life over. And just going off what we've seen, what I witnessed, you know, the character and how treatment and how we were treated and talked to, and I just don't believe it for a minute.
You mentioned she was making plans. Like, what type of plans?
From what I understand, she had an appointment to get her hair done this week. She was looking forward to moving on. She had filed paperwork and just served it 2 days prior.
So not behavior somebody who's planning to take their own life.
Not if I'm thinking about suicide. I'm not worried about court dates and paperwork or my hair. It doesn't sound that to me.
So basically, his sentiments echo what the family's saying. They're asking for a deep investigation here, actually.
So I have another question, and it's about another pastor. There seem to be a lot of pastors and deacons and leadership and former members, et cetera. But to be clear, I think, so just to get clarity, I think you spoke with another pastor as well. I'm not sure if he was at that church or another church, but it's somebody who actually knows John Paul, and he had a very different read on the whole situation. What do you know?
Yeah, he basically had the same, like he's known JP for his whole life. He was in leadership here at this church. He said point blank, JP did not kill his wife, Micah. I said, how do you know? He said, I don't know, but I know JP. So he's very defensive of his character. He says, look, he was counseling them. Something did happen, he said, in January, but he doesn't know what.
What about this whole notion that he thinks that there's an alibi to this, that the pastor in question has an alibi, which would get him off scot-free? Why won't he just come forth and tell everybody before the media speculation, runs amok?
That's a good question. This pastor said JP was in another part of South Carolina at the time. That will come out. So I said, like, why don't we all just talk on the record? And then he officially just declined about 10 minutes before air tonight. He said, I cannot talk to you on the record about this anymore.
And then just to be clear here, Rich, the incidents that Micah had reported, it's redacted. We don't know who the suspect is, but if you read it, it kind of looks like she knows the person, that the same person kept coming back and, coming after her. She says, I got a razor in my tire. I had a tire deflation device. I went to get it repaired, and they discovered the tracking device. And as she's at these places and getting gas, this suspect is driving up and kind of almost chasing her location to location. And there's witnesses to this. Why is it all redacted? And is anybody saying who that suspect is? Is it John Paul, the estranged pastor husband?
People believe it is. Why it's redacted is anybody's guess. We're talking with local police here. There's something I do want to bring up that we haven't discussed yet, is that in an affidavit in the probate court, Micah's family just filed trying to take control of this. Her sister wrote, that Micah said to her, if I end up with a bullet in my head, it was not by me, it was JP. That is in court documents. So that's like she's almost speaking from the grave, actually. It's kind of chilling.
Rich McHugh, it's still a mystery, and I'm going to depend on you to try to see if you can't sort through a bit more. Thank you for this.
So you see that, okay? So they're claiming that, or when this all happened, they were looking at John Miller as a suspect. He did have an alibi, okay? He did have an alibi, but she told her sister, if I do end up with a bullet in my head, it's not because of my own fault, it's because of him. Which is sad, which is very sad. This next video, they're saying, I think this is going to continue to play, but no, this is not the one I want. They found another video where he was literally stalking her. And I don't know why they they didn't reveal this information prior to everything's coming out, before it became national news. But we got to think, South Carolina, Myrtle Beach is not a large town. Everybody probably knows everybody, and they probably basically covered it up. That's why they redacted the police report. I mean, what else do you say about that? I mean, when you know, you know, crazy. Well, if you grew up in the same town and you know this guy from a kid, you're gonna say, "Oh no, that John, I know who he is. I don't think he did this, so I'm gonna protect him." Or I go to that church, so I'm gonna protect him. Anyway, they should be protecting him. So this is from Fit News. Um, I do want to say, just because she was planning her hair to get done and she was all in good spirits, that doesn't mean she wouldn't take her own life. All that means is she was fooling people. You know, I was listening to someone on TikTok. I think it was on TikTok. She said her brother took his life. I think her brother and her father took their lives, and her husband. I think so. Three people, and each one of the and throughout these incidents, what she learned that you think even if they had trouble with their mental health, you think they were looking up on the side of things. She said a week before, 2 weeks before, each one of her relatives that took their life were in good spirit. And she said that's a normal sign. Well, in her experience, they were in good spirits. They wasn't really down and out. I had a friend, he ended up taking his own life. And he was really sad. He was really sad. And then I didn't talk to him for a while. And like maybe 2 weeks before he took his own life, he was pretty happy. And I was like commending him. I was like, "Oh yeah, you got your stuff together, you know." I'm and I was, telling him encouraging words, but it's kind of like what do you when people have these mental issues, all you can do is offer them, a ear to a ear for them to talk to, refer them to counseling and all that stuff. So, I mean, if you're and Black folks, we're bad about this. We try to take our problems to ourselves and keep it to ourselves. It's nothing wrong with counseling. I firmly believe you should get counseling. If you know someone struggling with mental illness, you should refer them to counseling. It's no shame of, hey, needing somebody just to talk to, you know, and without being judgmental. That's another thing. Anyway, I'm just going off on a deep end. But friends of Mika and Miller, she was planning her future, not her funeral. In the final weeks of her life, Mika was hopeful. Her closest friends recall where am I? Recall a woman who finally finding her voice and planning the future without her allegedly abusive husband. None of them saw any indication that she was planning to end her life. Certainly, none of them had any idea her body would turn up miles away from her home in a remote pond at Lumber River State Park in North Carolina. Okay. The medical examiner, Richard Johnson, officially released the cause of manner of death in connection with the high-profile alleged suicide of the beautiful pastor of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina on April the 27th. It says, according to Johnson findings, 30-year-old Mika Miller died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. On Tuesday, the 7th, Robeson County, North Carolina sheriff officially ruled Miller's death a suicide and cleared her husband as a suspect. Now, everything she had shared with them about separation from the embattled pastor, including the divorce paper, served on him less than 48 hours before she died. Our media outlets spoke with several close friends and of Miller in the effort to gain insight into her final days, weeks, and months amongst us. Mika says she met her husband to his growing congregation when she was just 10 years old. At the time, the 25-year-old father of multiple children to his first wife, Allison Williams, who bore a striking resemblance to Mika. The divorce of Allison and John P. Miller was finalized on October the 29th, and he married in 2015, and he married Mika in 2017 when she was 23 years old. They raised who was raised in the church. So he knew Mika when she was 10 and she was raised in the church. Do you call that grooming? Maybe it wasn't, but kind of odd. You end up divorcing your wife of several kids, multiple children, and then you said, hey, I want to marry this kid. They got the ages wrong. He said at the time she was 25 he was 25. He was 25 and she was 10. So 15 years apart. Solid Rock at Market Common. The couple smiling faces featured prominently on the church's now defunct website, offering warm welcome to its new members. Okay, so it says, according to the website, Mika became more active in the day-to-day activities of the church, joyfully singing on the praise team and creating all the graphics for the church and for her husband's popular Sunday sermons. From the outside looking in, their marriage was perfect, but according to their friends, things were not as they appear. Mika close friends indicated the marriage began deteriorating about 2 years ago, but most of them was unaware of how bad things have gotten until the fall of 2023. I don't know. Do some churches, is it normal and customary? Maybe it's normal and customary now. If you're a minister or a pastor of a church, wouldn't you think sustaining your marriage is one of the important things of you're trying to lead you're trying to be a shepherd and lead your flock? So wouldn't divorce would be off the table and to work it out? I really do. And you guys put in the chat, I really do think he was trading to he feels like women have a shelf life and he was trying to get rid of her. Not, I wouldn't go as far as she, take her own life. I wouldn't say that, but hey, you're 20, 25, 27, you had a couple of kids. I use you up. I need somebody younger. That's what he did to his first wife. He's going to do that to you. And she was so young, and I'm wondering where her parents are at that allow her to get married to this 45-year-old man, and she 23. Well, at the time he would be 30 something. Or no, is it 30, 35? Come on now. So Mika's close friends indicated that their marriage was deteriorating. Around the time, JP purportedly read an apology letter to the church board members explaining that the couple had separated and admitted that he had been exchanging text messages with the daughter of a couple who were members of the church. So he got rid of her, and now he's trying to look at somebody younger. JP is also said to have informed the board that he and Mika had agreed they could see other people while they were separated. Why would she say that? I mean, if you're a follower of Christ, why would you want to do that? But we coming to find out he has a sex addiction. Something's wrong with him. A claim more than few of the board members question. Yeah, of course. You supposed to be a pastor, and you trying to close that one chapter down before you open up another. So you're going to be twice divorced. You're trying to lead somebody to Jesus Christ, and you can't even lead your own family. You can't keep your own family together. Somebody should have saw the red flags in that, but nobody said nothing. Samuel Matthews said, God, I hope the next girl see through the BS. They probably will, because all this stuff came out. God, Lexi said, her parents can't spell tonight. Anyway, so several longtime friends of the couple who belonged to the church began feeling uncomfortable with the seemingly strange new messaging and tone of his weekly sermon. As a result, they opt. I'm trying to make it larger. To seek a new church to call home. When Mika realized her friends no longer belonged to the church, she began opening up to them. According to multiple friends, what the young wife claimed she was experiencing at the hands of her husband was horrific. According to them, Mika was, as court documents supplied by her family attested, a woman afraid for her life. Mika was a devout Christian. She cherished the faith and the fellowship she found within her church. She probably, when she was 23, devout Christian, she probably really thought this man was chosen from me. God, when a man findeth a wife, he findeth a good thing. He probably told her that bullshit. And her parents probably believed that bullshit. They thinking, oh, he's the pastor of the church, girl. He's a prize. No, he ain't. Who wants to be a pastor wife? I don't know anybody who's willing to be a pastor wife, even if, and I always thought of pastor wives, you get some that's pretty mean and whatever, and they have to grow to be mean, especially in Black churches, because you got all these other women after your husband. You got all these other women after your husband, but then you got to worry about your husband infidelity, because they're anointed by God, but they want to anoint people with other things. And I'm not saying that's all pastors, but when you read stories like this, it's really frequent. But this is wild. He drove her crazy. Anyway, so she was devout Christian, and afraid that if she spoke the truth to those closest to her, it would affect their relationship with God. That's sad. That's really sad. that she felt that way. While those who are not devout followers of Christ may struggle to understand her hesitancy, I guess I'm not one of those. I was raised up in church, and I just don't see how you could have a separation and something horrific happening to you. I would think you will keep your mouth closed because you're ashamed about it, but not because it will affect their relationship with God. I wouldn't think that. Um, it says those who are say Mika was ultimately striving to protect the one thing which brought her the most peace during the times she struggled her faith. When she realized she now had fellowship outside the church in which she was raised, she knew it was time to seek guidance. Yeah, I mean, those who trusted her and loved her. Friends said Mika told them her husband, the same husband who preached regularly about dangers of pornographic addiction, was himself addicted to sex. They say he required her to have sex with him 3 to 5 times a day. 3 to 5 times a day. That's wild. A night when she refused to comply, they claim he kept her awake by blaring loud music in her ears and throwing water on her as she drifted off to sleep, a form of torture utilized in interrogation technique. This is crazy. It says when Mika couldn't meet his demands, according to her friends, he allegedly began forcing her to take testosterone shots to increase her sex drive. He also began engaging in methods of sexual gratification, methods which dehumanize Micah. Several of these methods, which can only be described as humiliating to his reserved wife, allegedly involving animals, homeless men, and sex toys. This is the man that people are listening to in the pulpit. While Mika's decision to privately share such awful details of her marriage shocked her friends, they also said in retrospect that it made sense given how he treated her. I mean, when we were there, of course, we were in the inner circle and we saw a lot of everything, said Alicia Young, a friend of Mika's and former member of the church. I mean, the way he would talk to her in front of people. I mean, he would talk down to her and the light would just go out of her face and everything. And we didn't know exactly how deep the abuse ran because we only saw what was in front of us. Mika had been preparing to leave her husband, but given the alleged abuse she had endured and failed previous attempts in September of 2023, she carefully documented evidence for the attorney. Friends says the evidence include proof of misuse of church funds, affairs involving JP and other women, and other illicit activities, given recently uncovered in an incident report. I didn't mean to do that. I'm going to pull it up, open in a new tab. And this was filed on March the 13th of 2024 with the Myrtle Beach police. which alleged the illegal transfer of funds from the church Day to Care mission to Miller's personal account. It is possible she had ample ammunition. But something happened before Mika could do anything with the information she told her friends she had gathered. On February the 8th, her husband had her admitted involuntary to the Center of Mental Health. So he civilly committed her. He claimed that she was crazy. Upon her release on February the 10th, staff at the facility informed her that her husband had taken her purse and her car keys. When Mika returned to where she had last left her car, it was gone, she told her friends. According to Mika's friends, JP left her at the facility with no identification, no wallet, no car. In the report filed a little over a week, Mika told the responding officer that JP fraudulently initiated her involuntary hospitalization and stole her vehicle. She added that JP had known her since she was 10 and groomed her while she worked for him prior to their marriage. I told you he groomed her. I don't know if you guys seen, it's the Netflix special, and this girl was groomed. And a matter of fact, they kidnapped her. They kidnapped this young girl. She had to be like 16, 17. She was supposed to be going somewhere, but they ended up kidnapping her. She probably was younger. Anywho, they kidnapped her, kept her for years. She was so conditioned not to leave, even though she was kidnapped. He ended up taking her to see her family, and they act like, oh, where you been? They thought she was dead. Nobody said that. This is the difference between black folks and white folks. No shade on white people. This was a white girl. They thought she was missing. She finally showed up with this man, and this man let her stay at the house. And no one said, hey, where you been? No one said, like, are you sure you okay? Nobody asked that. Nobody got the gut feeling saying, oh, this ain't right. And they let her leave back with this man that kidnapped her. She was living under the bed. And she acted out. First, they had a box over her head, and they put her in the basement and was, she was like their sex slave. But it was for the husband. The wife didn't like it, but he allowed her to keep this so-called sex slave. And so, like I said, she was so conditioned that and brainwashed, they let her go to see her family, and she came back willingly and lived under the bed for another 4 or 5 years. I got to find that story. I think it was on Netflix. Yeah, it's a true story. Here's it. Her name was Colleen Stan. The girl in the box was kidnapped, held captive in a homemade wooden box under a couple's bed in Red Bluff, California from 1977 to 1984. Cameron and Janice Hooker bound and gagged Stan, Colleen, then placed her in the box over her head and locked her in for 23 hours a day. Only thing they let her out so she could drink and eat some food. And poop, but she had to poop in a bucket. Stan was 20 years old when she was kidnapped. hitchhiking from Oregon. So I got the age wrong. I guess she was grown, but nobody heard from her. I think she was in college or something like that, but nobody heard from her. And you think it would be like, where you been, girl? Nobody seen you in what? 3 years, 5 years, and now you showing up with this guy. Nobody knew where you was at. They said Stan was tortured by being tied up to the ceiling and beaten, electrocuted, whipped, and burned. Stan says she thought she would die sometimes during her ordeal. They made a movie about it, you guys. They made a movie about it. And it was sick. Okay. But she was held captive for 7 years. Anyway, going back to Mika. Mika is now, you know, as we see, Mika, she worked for JP, as I guess that's his nickname, the pastor. He civilly committed her illegally, stole her identity, her car, her wallet. So she, of course, you know, if you're gonna abuse her, you gotta make sure you abuse her right. She can't have any resources. You know, he's trying to punish you. Hey, you want to step out of line? This is what I'm gonna do. And at 13 until 23, she probably thought he was the greatest man alive. She was in love with him. As the couple was still legally married and the vehicle was considered marital property, the officer found no way to establish that the criminal offense has been committed. Accordingly, no charges were filed. Shortly thereafter, Mika moved in with a friend, and her father helped her to get a new car so she was able to drive herself to work. Eventually, she managed to get her identification back from her estranged husband, but the problems didn't end there. The trail of incident reports documented an ongoing campaign of harassment and stalking, and corroborating what Mika's closest friends says that witnessed in her final months. One of her closest friends recalled a haunting conversation with Mika in the midst of her final attempt to escape her marriage. My husband's going to try to find me, Mika said during a late night call, according to her friend. He's going to say I killed myself, telling the whole church every sermon, every opportunity he gets to tell the church that I have a mental illness. You know, he's threatened me with a gun before. He told me I would never leave him. Mika continued, according to her friend, he's never going to let me go. There's no way. He said it to me. He said, there's nowhere you can go that I can't find you. Reason why he's probably said that because he put a tracking device on her car. So if you got a tracking device on your car, anybody could find you. Anybody could put a tracking device in your car. They make them at the store. And I just found this out talking to some of my friends. They said, yeah, you could buy this AirTag. As long as you got an iPhone, you could buy this AirTag and place it in somebody's car and they wouldn't even know it. It's like, now I'm giving stalkers some tools to use, but that's what, but if that person has an iPhone, it might pop up the person that you're stalking. They might could see it too. It might show as a device on their iPhone. Anywho, she said, I'm scared. And the friend recalled, she said, I'm genuinely scared. I think I know too much. And that's why he wants me to keep quiet. And that's why he wants me to shut up. It says in the final moments, the police reports that Mika filed in the final months of her life lent to credence to a growing fear of her estranged husband, which in addition being discussed in the interviews with her friends, was documented in a court filing by her family members days after her death. And this is I mean, he does look young, so I could see why, she will fall for him, because he's a young looking guy. This is one of the police reports. They're saying that, or she's saying that he stole $1,100. I mean, is that worth your life? They saying it's a swindling scheme. That's what they called it. He swindled people out of their money. This is a sad story. A sad story. I just want to go back and find that one interview.
Hi, I'm Matt, and today I'll be walking you through some of the techniques I've developed using the FlexPoint.
There are some questions about that. In fact, we were going to try to start seeking a civil action attorney to consult with to see if some of the documents that we have found, or not found, but that Micah left in my care, as well as her family also had found, there seems to me that there could be a civil action, not against the police. The police, under the circumstances, responded, I think, appropriately under what was happening at the time. But there are other things that happened that are related to this church. She was employed there. There's a question about whether she was appropriately paid for her time. She was the church itself was used by John Paul. I have letters that he wrote on church stationery to her, basically disparaging her. He went after everything that meant anything to this young woman. And I want to go back to the question about, what else this could have been if he didn't actually pull the trigger. This man, in my opinion, based on the documents, my conversations with Micah whenever she was alive, tell me that she was brainwashed by this man. He abused her in every possible way that there is. Financially, he abused her by taking away things, phones, access to money, took away her car, those types of things to try to gain control of her. Every time she tried to leave him, he would harass and stalk her to the point that she just felt like she had to give up and go back. And he abused her not only emotionally, financially, he abused her religiously in terms of her religion and her relationship with God. He demeaned her in every aspect that he could. There is a video of a sermon of him that I was just so taken aback, and my jaw hit the ground because I felt like I had come across the answer of maybe why she would have taken it this far. And that is, he had her convinced that this was what she should do in my opinion. I believe he had her convinced that it would be the only way that she could escape him to some degree. I believe that he had her convinced all the way. I believe that he used every tactic and tool that he could. The mounds of paperwork that I have is incredible. She collected a lot of things. She kept a notebook. I have boxes of journals, which, by the way, he's made 100 phone calls looking for, as I understand. And he is constantly trying to stay in front of this, spin some some story. And I think we have enough here that.
With that evidence, I'm curious. I'm sorry to jump in, Regina, but Sierra, do you think you can shed some light on why your sister told the police that John Paul had been grooming her since the age of 10, but that her, her involvement with the church only began at age 14 in a youth program? Do you know what the difference is between those two claims?
If I had to assume, I would guess that she probably meant 2010, not 10. Since 2010 would be a better estimate of what she might have meant.
Yeah, I don't think
that
that
lines
she
up
ever
with being
said
age 14?
10 years old.
No, she's consistently said around 14, 15 years old. I've never heard her ever say 10 years old.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find news.
So they just dispelled that. So he was grooming her since 14. What's the damn difference? You're 14 and you got a 40-year-old man looking at you. He's kind of sick. And they said she was moving to Vegas.
Question: if you're an insurance agent, how do you start making?
I'm not for sure.
National correspondent Rich McHugh. He knows a lot about these cases and how to investigate them. You may not know this, but Rich McHugh was Ronan Farrow's producer when they broke the Harvey Weinstein story. Okay, so Rich, the biggest issue has been all along the police reports about Micah saying that she was being harassed by someone repeatedly. Someone had put razors in her tire, a deflation device, a tracking device, had chased her from a gas station to a car dealership, and the name was redacted. And tonight you have information about that redacted name. Who is it?
Well, we're going to show you a piece of video in just a moment, Ashley. First, some context, though, is that you gave some of it. Ashley, we FOIA'd these police documents. There's about a dozen of them. And this one document from March 11th paints a picture. And if we have video of that police document, I want to quote from it. So when we see the actual video, we can make sense of it. In the police document, the police officer writes that he was at East Coast Honda in Myrtle Beach in reference to harassment, that Micah was getting her tire fixed after it was slashed, that she told the officer the tracking device was on her car, that the suspect showed up, quote, she told him to go away, but she does not want to talk. And then when she pulled out her phone to record, he sped off. The victim said he leaves and comes back. That appears to be the moment we're about to show you. Roll the tape if we have it.
Walk away.
I'll show you the pictures.
Do you want to go to jail?
They'll be on Facebook in a few hours.
Alrighty, you'll be in jail in a few hours. Walk away.
Now, that moment it's a window into everything that we've kind of been guessing between these two, the struggles that they've been having for the previous 2 years, it sounds like. But in the weeks leading up to her death, there were multiple police reports, and this was one of those contentious days where police were called twice. And this video kind of shows the nature of the relationship in that very moment. Now, it's worth saying, he has not been charged with anything. Police have ruled this a suicide. So this is just context for an extremely troubled relationship, Ashley.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation.
Yeah, he was harassing her. He literally harassed her to a point of no return. That's basically what that is. He harassed her to a point of no return, and it is sad. It's sad. And you know what? I'm surprised they didn't grant her a restraining order against her husband. They redacted. Now her lawyer said that they're not going to try to sue the police department, but they should have granted her restraining order at least. You know, he was doing all these things allegedly. If she's in fear of her husband's life or of her life because of her husband, you think they would have gave her a restraining order? I'm not for sure. I don't know how some towns work or restraining order works. But I think it's sad that she took her own life. I just want to pull up the recording to the police department before.
That Micah Miller made before she ended her life.
Robeson County 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Hi, are you able to trace the location of my phone?
Let me see. You don't know where you're at?
In National Park.
What's the phone number you're calling me from?
843-655.
Where's the park located at?
In Fair Bluff.
Let's see.
I have my location on, I think, on my phone. Find my phone is on. I just did my my location.
Okay, I'm showing, hold on one second. I don't think you are in Robeson County. Are you at the Lumber River State Park?
Yeah, that's where I am.
Okay. Tell me what's happened.
I'm about to myself, and I just want my family to know where to find me.
Okay, ma'am. Just listen to what I'm saying, okay? Let me make sure I got the exact location where you're at, okay? Just 1 minute.
You can hear the brokenness in her voice.
Yeah, that's sad. But you know, back to the husband, you know, can a person drive you so mad that you want to, you know, take your own life? And someone that really believes in God. I think the lines are blurred. You have this minister or this pastor befriended this young girl, basically groomed her. So she thinks whatever he says, because he's the person that's closest to God, is law. So I think it's very possible for these like this. And like I said, it's really sad, it's heartbreaking. very heartbreaking that somebody will drive you to that point to take your own life. Anyway, you guys, I don't know what's going to come out of this. I think he will be civilly sued and held responsible for her death. I don't know if he has any money. I don't know how their church works. I think he founded the church that he was operating, or he's the pastor of. So I'm not for sure how that's going to work. If he's the founder, maybe the parents will see some type of justice from John Miller. Okay. So anyway, you guys, thank you for tuning in. That's all for our live stream tonight. I only had one subject to talk about, and that was this one. If you guys know anybody suffering from mental illness or struggling with day-to-day activities, it's nothing wrong with lending an ear, and it's nothing wrong to say, hey, whoever they are, hey, loved one, it's okay to seek help. It's okay. It's not a taboo. And just because you believe in God, that doesn't mean that you have to depend on the pastor or people in the church for counseling. You could look outside of people in the church for counseling. There's a lot of psychiatrists, counselors that will not judge you because of whatever you're going through. Anyway, so you guys, I'm truly sending all my good to you. I will talk to you on Monday.